Here we are then. That's that fortnight gone, Alex. We're back together again. That's a song. Back together again.
We're back together again.
There we go.
The band is back together.
I'd run it if we weren't going to get a copyright strike. How are you?
Good, thank you. I mean, I think we've both been very busy, right, recently, in all sorts of different ways. But no, it's good. The sun is shining.
The sun is shining. And I was really happy to see you took a day off yesterday with your kid and you went to my old spiritual home. You went to Lourdes. I saw you take a picture with your Samsung and I thought, that's Lourdes. It's the first, it's the test.
It's
so
awesome.
Good day up there?
Yeah, awesome. I mean, myself and my wife, we used to go there a lot before he was born.
Because you were in London, weren't you?
Yeah. And I love the sport. Probably the only Brazilian who actually enjoy. I've played for a while even. Took
so
me
you
a few
understand
years
it as well?
Oh yeah, gosh, yeah. I wasn't as bad as with my scoreboard in there and doing the scoring, but I'm very keen and I'm listening to the match today as well, which it's been an absolutely great day for England.
Yeah,
so.
I do kind of feel sorry for Ireland, I must say. I mean, they're doing their absolute best, but England are at the top of their game, and it is a one-sided match. But if we bring it back to tech just for a minute. I saw that you were taking some pictures with the Samsung as well. You got a couple of lovely shots. I mean, you got some decent shots of the field of play.
That phone, which is why I've changed, right? That phone, I couldn't really rely on Samsung phones before for everything. And now I can truly do it. I mean, my son even recorded a few seconds of me using one of the backpacks that I'm using for a review. Just for the phone, even though I took my professional camera, I didn't need it in the end because that phone is really good.
Oh, you went fully packed then. You took the big camera as well.
As a creator, right, every opportunity, it's on a train journey. You might get bored for a bit, so you're either typing up a script, you're working on the next video. There's a few shots that you might. So you're going to London, right? It's an opportunity to take a nice shot somewhere.
Yeah, well, I kind of made that mistake myself because I went to the podcast show last brilliant day. I came away absolutely buzzing.
I saw some of your clips,
Oh, man, just the amount of people that you know what it's like. I mean, it's like when you and I sit together and talk and you bounce off of ideas. If you think that times 3,000, it was about 3,000 a day there, and the place was crammed with creators. I got to have a quick word with Lomax.
Is it a bit of a sausage fest? Or?
Oh, yeah. I think the days of COVID were truly gone, Hey, you just give me the title again. It was a sausage fest. There we go. Thank you.
There you go.
Perfect. I got a quick word with Alison Lomax, the CEO of YouTube UK. Clearly, it's made a big difference to my career, as you can tell. I'm just like flying now for that quick. We're besties. We're besties.
She unblocked your channel now.
Foolish woman. That was her first mistake. Never unblock me. But yes, I took my full camera bag with me as well and didn't use it once because the phone was good enough. Because you're close to people on the whole, and if you just want to get quick video for shorts, and so it's ready made, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I did take the full bag with me, like you say, just thinking, there might be a moment I want to sit and edit or something, but it wasn't. It was shoot, run and gun kind of thing. But brilliant day out there.
Always good to be prepared, isn't it?
Absolutely was, yeah. So we've got plenty to talk about this time around.
Oh, and my studio is back. I don't know if you can see it behind me. That window there, for those listening, I had scaffolding since October last year, so well over almost a year, right? It's finally gone, and I can see.
That's a lovely new panel behind you as well. You got a big LED panel behind you.
Yeah, it's a nice telly, just OLED, OLED TV.
Nice.
So some videos about that going.
Well, actually, looking at your set, you'll see I've made a bit of an effort with mine as well, because I didn't realise until I was at the podcast show. I didn't know there were two. We know about the content creator economy. Right. I did not know there were two economies that are thriving in this country at the moment: is thumbnail design economy and set design for podcast economy.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Because the aesthetics of the set. So that's why I came back and we said, right, what can I do? I need to get different angles. I need to get different lights. And
you got your plant there, and I can see
some more ambient lighting. And of course, I used to shoot absolutely straight onto those panels, and I realised I was shooting flat. I wasn't giving it any aspect. So
I was listening to he's a director of photography, completely veering off towards but it's interesting for creators, right? You see, I've got this line here. I'm pointing over my right shoulder. That's the corner of the room.
Right.
He said, this is a director of photography. For whatever you're doing, involving video, always point the camera at the corner.
There you go.
So the third, the rule of thirds, right? That
You
third,
got that.
Yeah. It's just more interesting. It gives a little bit more depth. It might not look straight all the time, but it's a bit more interesting.
No, but it's interesting to look at, exactly. And, I could see that you're set behind. And it's really important, of course, because that's a lot of what they were talking about up there was the integration of video and podcasts and the way how much YouTube are clearly stepping up their game.
I saw the little new tab today, on podcasts. Yeah.
That's right, yeah. They're really, and they said if you're making an audio podcast, you've got to make it video as well. You're losing out if you don't. Spotify now are picking up on, videos. And
just listen to Joe Rogan, right?
Yeah, exactly that, yeah. And I've come back and subscribed suddenly to so many more podcasts on YouTube. And I sit there, of course, being the little producer that I am, thinking, okay, I can pick up that trick and that trick. And you and I obviously now using Riverside, which is proving a real bonus, and had a lovely chat with them as well. But that was part of the plan of going up there, was just to try and suck up as many ideas as I could. I got to talk to Mackie. I've got a very similar desk to yours. You've got the Procaster, haven't you? Rodecaster.
Oh, yeah, the Rodecaster, yeah.
Rodecaster, yeah. So Mackie brought a desk out very similar to that called the DLZ. Doing my best to try and get a copy of the review unit of that to use.
Oh,
and
nice.
Shure Microphones have said they might let me get some review units. Heil microphones. I was just pimping myself out day long.
Yeah.
But
I might hide my Rode. I mean, this Rode arm is so old, but it does the job. But it's,
I think you've got exactly the same one as me, actually, haven't you? Yeah, exactly the same one as me. Yeah. And you're on a Shure SM7B, aren't you?
That's the SM. Yeah, that was one of my first reviews on the channel. Actually, this bad boy is covered in dust now, but yeah, it's.
So when you stopped doing football shoe reviews, you went on to microphone reviews.
That's right. Yeah.
And then became the success you are. This is my old radio microphone, actually, because it just likes my voice. I've thought about getting a Shure, but this one just seems to. I don't know if they can wear in, but they I like the sound of it. So for the time being, I'm keeping with my AT2035, I think it is, Audio Technica, which suits me well. So
awesome.
Well, we've got Aussie Dub to talk about in a little bit, and we'll talk about that
next week.
Isn't it? Yeah, it's on Monday. And talking about you and I being busy, I just put a video out. I'm still playing with times, and today worked really well into my lap, actually, because I'm going to piss you off by saying I've had a bit of an easy day, because I know you haven't.
Yes.
Like last weekend, I was working till I think 10 on Friday night and about 9 on Saturday trying to get videos done. And today, because the main video this week was, in essence, actually a podcast with me and Marcus on the main channel talking about the headset, because he's got so much knowledge and passion. It just seemed an obvious thing to do.
Yeah.
But it meant I had no editing to do. It was just top and tail, upload. So I kind of bought myself a day. And I was sitting here today, I was listening to Test Match. I thought, this is the life. I
could live like this. Yeah, definitely.
And then you suddenly realise, why do I put myself through it every week when I can just do that? But So, and then on Monday, what I've decided to do, Marcus and I are going to watch the event live off screen, as it were, and I'm going to record it on Riverside. And then the minute it finishes, because obviously then we're going to capture his reactions to everything that's going on.
Yeah.
Then we're going to talk about it. So I'm going to get a video up as soon as I can afterwards as well. So yeah,
I'm going to do something like that as well, either before or after or both, because I really think it's going to be a massive event. It could be disappointing, but either way, it should be giving something for us to talk about, right?
Yeah, I mean, let's sort of begin to unpack that now then, as we've sort of walked into it. Yeah, I mean, the point, I wrote about it this week saying, I can't think of another year when the press room on a Tuesday at 2:00 our time has been more busy. You suddenly get these, and there is not a chance in hell that Final Cut and Logic would have ever been released purely on press release on any year but this year.
There's definitely a reason. They were clearly cleaning the desks, right? So we can't fit everything in. So this has to go as a press release.
Exactly. And if you think about it, because when you always look back at Apple, you realise it's a strategy. Now, you think back to January when we suddenly got the M2 MacBook Pros dropped, the HomePod, Mac Mini. You realise since January, they've now been clearing the way.
Yeah.
Nothing happens by mistake with that company, does it?
No, there's always... Well, it's always a way to also to make sure that people have the next paycheck to be able to buy more stuff, right? So yeah, because releasing everything at once will mean that you can either buy one product or the other, not everything.
And so the first question is, and I've had different answers on this, when do you think, and we're taking it as a given now, that the headset, because we're all going to look foolish if suddenly there is no headset, but
oh gosh, you'll be
taking it as a given.
Yeah.
First up, last up. When do you think they're going to announce it?
It'll be the last thing they talk about. Yeah, I would say they probably leave an hour for it because I think it was going to be probably the crown jewel. But I'd say they will probably start with some other updates like Mac updates. But they will talk about the headset as the last thing, I'd say.
Well, if we see, I thought that, and then I wondered if there's so much to talk about, whether it needs to be bumped. It makes sense to be the end, the star of the show, but there's so much. I mean, it's a brand new platform. We've got no idea how it's going to work, what it's going to involve, what apps are going to be launching with it. It'd be interesting to see when they do decide to bring it up. And what would your guess be on when you'd actually be able to get your hands on one? Late this year or early next?
As a consumer, I want it 2 years ago, right? But realistically, this is after all a software conference, right? They're not really typically a product event. So I'm thinking they might just say, this is coming, get ready, right? Get the apps ready for it, get the developers working on stuff. So realistically, it might be next year when we can actually buy one as a consumer. It would be awesome if they already have some apps that you could just get some Apple software in it that you can use today and say, right, it's going to be available next week. But that's I think wishful thinking.
I think it's definitely, I would have thought, going to be a show us and then it will come later. And obviously they've got all the developers there for 3 or 4 days after the keynote to get them on board and begin developing. So the things that we know that are coming is a headset plus all of the operating systems. You normally get 20 minutes on macOS alone. Then you've got iOS, which is the big one.
Yeah.
iPadOS continues to be the quagmire and nightmare that it is.
I have some thoughts on that, but I might video this weekend if I can upload it. It's about the iPad.
So you're taking those days off to go to Lord's, don't get a video uploaded.
Yeah, exactly. You gotta take it easy sometimes, right? Yeah, I do have a lot of thoughts on iPadOS in general.
Okay.
Of course, with the Final Cut Malarkey and Logic Pro. But yeah, I mean, my first reaction when iPadOS 17 was announced was, here we go again. It's just another, lick of paint with a bit more, as they call it, ability to multitask. But it's never really. I mean, the last 2 iterations haven't been that. And we've, as a user of something like the Tab S8 Ultra from Samsung, for example, I know what a tablet form factor can do from a multitasking perspective, from that link between your tablet and your computer. There's a lot that you can do there, or even having decent apps. I mean, LumaFusion didn't really deliver on the Samsung platform, on the Android platform, which is a shame because they had a whole year to basically say to Apple, right, you didn't do this. No, we've got on with it. The reality is, Android apps, are not better. But when it comes to multitasking, there's a lot more that I can do on the Tab S8 Ultra, and therefore my iPad has been collecting dust for a lot of the work-related tasks that I do. So when this was announced, I was like, okay, here we go again. It's just another minor update. But they actually surprised me. They came up with something that was like, whoa, okay, they listened, on the surface. That's what I'm saying in my video. I was like, they listened to the customers. They said, right, here, you want Pro apps? Here's a couple of the top Pro apps that we sell. Logic Pro and Final Cut. But it only took me, I don't know, a couple of hours of using. And I tried, I honestly really tried. I actually went back to Apple. I returned my M2 iPad Pro earlier this year because I was like, well, what's the point of this?
Don't need it.
And kept my M1 iPad Pro, and that was collecting dust. But, with this announcement, I said, okay, you know what? I'll give it another go, and I'll go for the M2 iPad Pro again. Got that back. And test it, and so let's load a timeline in here. Let's put like one single layer of 4K video, and I'm not changing how I work. So that's I'm a creator. I'm just gonna do what I normally do on Final Cut for the Mac and see if it works. And as you can probably guess it, right? I mean, it just didn't. I don't cut corners with my footage. I don't have the best cameras out there. It's not an 8K camera or even a 6K camera. It's a 4K camera. It's a
good camera. Yeah.
It's a 10. It can record 10-bit color. So it's heavy files. Half an hour of 4K video on this camera. The way I recorded with the ability to load LUTs in the end. It can generate, 60 gig, right, for like half an hour of footage. So it's quite a hefty file. And by the time you add B-roll shots and things like that, you're talking almost half a terabyte of storage. So for them to then say, oh, actually, we're not supporting external storage, it's a struggle for me from even, before even starting.
So I'm going to ask a naive question because, I'm not a big iPad user and I'm not a Final Cut user at all. So what do you do about bringing footage in then? How do you get the files onto iPad?
Yeah, so you can shoot any footage, including what I do, and transfer it to the iPad, via USB or whatever. Or one of those card readers that you can have an adapter to.
Oh, but of course, you're talking possibly 40, 60 gigs worth of data.
Yeah. So even on a 1 terabyte iPad, which is the one I've got on the M1, after a few videos, I'll be running out of storage, which is okay, right? You can think, okay, maybe I'll just do one video, one project at a time, and I'll work that way. And I could see, and I was trying to like it, and I was trying to make it work. But the reality is you have to use certain type of footage. I did realize that if I use lower quality footage, which arguably I don't need for YouTube, I don't need 4K, 10-bit, to or whatever. It can be lower res and different settings so that the files are smaller and I can work with it. And H.265, I think, I could be wrong here, but H.264...
A bit more compressed, isn't it? Or slightly smaller.
Is probably what's recommended, right? Because as soon as I put any footage that I use from my camera into the iPad, the whole thing touches, and I couldn't even try the new settings like background removal, using the pen for the animations. I just couldn't do it because everything was so stuttery. So for me, my current workflow would have to change drastically for me to use the iPad. So for me, it's like a non-starter. But in my video, I also say, right, if I'm putting my shoes on the target audience for this, actually, is a brilliant way for content creators who are starting out to use the iPad, right? So they can record on the iPhone and
and on the iPad itself as well.
Or the iPad itself, because it's got a decent 4K camera. So yeah, I can see it working for people who never used Final Cut on the Mac before, and people who are maybe starting out and don't really have a professional camera, or even if they've got a professional camera, that they're not using, the high-end sort of specs for the footage. So yeah, I mean, I'm not the target audience, I don't think. Because
I've watched a number of videos, because obviously it really does interest me, and one of the other workflow issues I understand is that you can start a project on the iPad and flick it back to the Mac, but you can't take it from the Mac back over to the iPad. Is that right?
Yeah, that's exactly that was the other major, almost like for me, it's a deal breaker. I would love to do one or two things, ideally both, but I would love to say, for example, I don't even need the entire project, but there's a section like 30 seconds of the project that I want to extract into a kind of external drive and go work on a cafe, right? And just maybe add the pen animations and do some things just on that little bit of foot, on that one clip. I'd love to be able to do that interchangeably between the iPad and the Mac. Another use case, which is probably a more realistic one and what I was expecting as a consumer, is to be able to say, it's 5 o'clock, I'm going to go home, right? I'm done for today. So close the project on the Mac, export it to a external drive and work from a couch later on, just on some fine tuning, again, using the animations on the pen, using the tablet features, the touch stuff and the pen. So that's a major issue for me. You can do that with Logic Pro, which is great. And Logic Pro, from what I understand, has a lot more features on the iPad than it has, in comparison with the Final Cut. So, yeah, it's just a shame, because video is one of those things that a lot of people are, everyone is a content creator these days. It would be awesome to be able to just switch between the two and not just be limited by one-way transfer. Again,
I know this is probably more directed towards Logic, but it does pertain to video as well. What happens about plugins?
Yeah, so I mentioned that as well. It's one of those, it says soon, right? Coming soon. And, if you read the fine print, it's actually quite positive. It just mentioned the brand Motion VFX, which as it happens is the one I use. And I know a lot of creators use it. I mean, there are really expensive though. So I would not trust, the Soon. And I'll probably, if I can, if you're kind of in this, you're not sure whether to get it or not, I'll say wait until after WWDC when they might announce when Soon is, and go based on that, right? Because if Soon is a year from now, I'd say, and I go by, and there's another great creator who actually edits all his videos. He's got hundreds of thousands of, I don't know if he's got over 100, but he's on 9 to 5 Mac now. He works, his name is Fernando Silva. You know Nando, right?
Yeah.
And he exclusively edits on the iPad. And he's been doing that for years. And he uses LumaFusion. And I asked him, right, straight up, and I'm sure he won't mind me saying this. So for you, what is it like? And he goes, I'm back on Luma. I tried and it's just, So if someone who edits on the iPad exclusively, never edited on the Mac before, if it's not good for that person, then, it says it all for me, because it's like, okay, if you're going back to Luma, then...
Yeah, I would have thought the fact that the big alarm bell for me rang when I heard that you couldn't have workflows going both ways. The very instance you just described was brilliant. I thought, say that you did want to just do say, because I know you shoot a lot of B-roll out in parks and whatever. And let's say you'd been and shot some of that, and you just wanted to edit that bit.
Just a quick,
knowing that you can't
without having to
both
be
ways.
in a desk. Yeah. Awesome. It would be awesome. What the hell are they doing?
It does make me smile, because everyone, and I know we're whores for, we need content. So when Apple release something, we all jump on it. But you know what happens? Everyone jumps up and down saying it's the best thing since sliced bread. And then the dust settles and you realize, actually, what I was doing before, it's not all bad.
I was very tempted to do a quick, like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, they finally listened to it. And I'm glad I didn't, because it would have been an impulsive video that I'd get shot down very quickly a couple of days later. So I'm glad I took my time, and it's ready now. I've recorded, all I needed to say. But I just think it's just a shame, an opportunity missed. Is there anything better out there? I'd say LumaFusion is a good contender.
Have you dabbled with DaVinci yet or not?
Yeah, I actually have installed, and I use it for specific things, right? So there are, for example, the only use case I could find on DaVinci that I couldn't do on anything else was they've got a fish line removal tool. So it's like an automatic thing. So if you use a fishing line to hide something in the background, right, with a green screen, they have a brilliant way of doing that that no one else does. So I use it for those sort of things. And there was I think I did it for an 8K export as well. And I used Premiere Pro in the end, but I tried DaVinci as well for that. So yeah, there are specific things that Final Cut don't have, or you'd have to have something. I forgot the name of the product, but there's another subscription that you have to add. Compressor, I think it's called. If you've got Final Cut and Compressor, you might be able to do what DaVinci does or Premiere Pro does, in one shot.
Because I put a video up last week, and obviously, clearly, it wasn't me comparing Final Cut, DaVinci, and Premiere. I was just sort of standing Premiere's corner saying, look, you know, Hollywood movies are using it. It's still, no matter what press it's getting at the moment, it's still a really professional, solid product. And I may be lucky that I haven't had glitches, but that's by the by. But the one thing, it actually caused quite a lot of conversation, which was pleasing to see. And people kept on coming back to the fact that DaVinci is brilliant for colouring and colourists.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Is it that much different?
Yeah, I mean, the nodes and the way you can add layers and layers of colors. Of course, you can do that physically on any other program, but DaVinci is more geared towards, I mean, the language, the way it's visual, the way you visualize the layers of color that you add, it's very professional. I mean, it's what most colorists like. So
I might, at some point, I think, try grabbing the free version and having a play. I think that could be an interesting video. So first time out the
that's what I've got,
cage.
actually. Yeah.
Oh,
I think you only get, there's only certain features that you don't ever need unless you work with a lot of people, in a studio. But yeah, if it's just you, I'd say the free version is what most people use.
Yeah, DaVinci's on iPad as well, isn't it?
I'm not sure, actually.
I wondered if you
that
used
was
it
announced, wasn't it? That was announced.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened, actually. I don't know if anyone... Yeah, that was
so
announced.
I think Blackmagic said that it is on iPad. And I was wondering if you tried it yet as a comparison. That may be an idea for another video for you.
Yeah, no, I haven't tried that. But I've tried Luma. I have Luma. And I actually edited a couple of videos on Luma. It's just... Yeah, I just find it easier on the Mac. But
And
there's
I
a
know
lot of people who just use the Luma. I mean, there's a few creators I know that don't use anything else, just use LumaFusion.
And I know you use a fair amount of audio plugins on your videos as well. With Final Cut, presumably you can import waves and things like that. You're not geared to just AU units, are you? You can import third-party.
Oh yeah. Same as Premiere. But I say the plugins for video, so graphic SFX, video effects are easier to use on Final Cut out of all of them.
Mm-hmm.
But and that's what I use the most. I mean, I can't lose that, right? Which is why there's another, I can't wait. Coming soon for me is not good enough. I need it now.
Because I know you and I were chatting this week with our Aussie pal Daniel. He was talking about the way he records audio, the way we record audio, and so on. And you record your audio baked straight into the video, don't you?
Yeah, 99% of the time. There will be a couple of videos where I use a microphone like this, and they might not be connected to the camera. But these are rare occasions when I'm doing something that is not in my normal sitting here. So if I go like on the sofa and record a segment there, I might record on this, then transfer the audio and sync the audio later. But for most of my stuff, I try to get the audio. So I've got this on my Sony camera. I'm showing here is an XL X something that basically has two.
So that's the mic you use for your A-roll then?
Well, not the mic itself. I can take the mic. This is what I took to Lord's the other day. But
right, yeah.
But it has two inputs for XLR. So I can have actually two microphones plugged into this. But what I do, I just use one, and I use my Sennheiser shotgun most like
XLR into that, yeah.
XLR into this, and that basically records the audio.
Actually, I'll tell you what would be interesting. If you know what product that is, we'll put that in the show notes.
Yeah, it's called a XL. I'm pretty sure it's called XLR adapter from Sony.
That would go onto my Canon as well, would it?
No, this has a
Sony only.
It has a Sony little
hot shoe.
It goes on the hot shoe thing, and yeah, it works with Sony.
Right.
Some of the newer Sony cameras come with this already in the camera, which is awesome. I think is the FX3, I think it is, which is an awesome camera as well for cinema-like.
And as we've sort of begun to talk cameras a little bit, I saw you were playing with some new filters, weren't you, as well? Some NDs?
Yeah. That's the one I've got on this camera right now, which is doing a good job, I think. It's not...
no, you've got a lovely colour.
Yeah, I'm blowing out a little bit the window there, but no, this is great. I was using a similar product that was a little bit bigger, and I like that because you can, without having to switch filters, you can get from ND2 all the way to ND64, I think it was. But I noticed that when you push beyond, 16, I was getting some black X's, in the footers, like some vignetting. So yeah, I went to this brand. What's the brand called? And I didn't know much about this brand. Did you buy these yourself? I bought it.
This wasn't a sponsor?
No. There are a lot of sponsors who want to send me gear stuff like for cameras, but my channel, people wouldn't watch it. So it's a shame, right? Because I'd love to talk about this stuff. And I did get some gear early on, camera stuff, but it just doesn't do well on the channel.
Well, I've just had an idea. Maybe on our next podcast, we could spend a bit of time talking cameras. It's our podcast.
Yeah.
And it's a creators podcast, and
we were talking about this on the WhatsApp, right? People say, a lot of people say, and I've heard this myself when I was starting out, well, gear doesn't matter. You just need an idea and your phone. Shut up. Yeah. Most people saying that are people on professional cameras and studios.
Shooting Canons and Sonys and Reds, No,
to get kind of, I think Daniel said this as well, right? It's like, it shouldn't be kind of blocked by not having the right gear. And that was my mistake starting. I was waiting to have the right camera or the right lighting to start. And, you should never do that. Just start with what you've got. But obviously to grow and to improve your content. And people notice there's little things, right? People will notice that you sound better, that your lighting is better, that your camera footage is better. So it does matter.
Oh, it does. I mean, I made a promise to myself, which very quickly got thrown out the window when I started this back in September 21, that I wasn't going to buy anything until I was monetized and making money. That very quickly got thrown away. And when I look at the equipment that's around me now, and I'm still fairly low, but
thousands,
I've got,
isn't it? Yeah.
oh yeah. I mean, this year alone, the auto cue and different mics, and it just goes on.
Your
and
monitor,
on.
your computer. Yeah, it's over 10 grand easily, right?
And then there's subscriptions for effects. I've got two. I use Motion Array and Epidemic Sound, so that's another sub that's going out. Filmic Pro, Filmic Pro. I saw, I know we both have used that in the past. Riverside is another. It goes on and on. And the camera, when I went from using the bog standard 12 to the 14 Pro, that was one jump. But then I bought the Canon, and no matter what people say that an iPhone looks as good as a DSLR, it just doesn't. No. The minute I started shooting on this Canon, it
you
just
can't compare,
looks.
Right? It does a great job, but when you put real glass and lenses, there's a lot camera that digitally is going to be very hard to replicate. So what I would say is though, limit. So for example, that Canon that you've got, I run out of things to do with it. There were limitations with my creative shots that I was like, okay, I wish I had a camera that could go beyond this. And that's when so I exhausted the gear that I had. And I think I do a lot, even these days, I do a lot with what I've got. And I think that's a great advice. I don't know who gave me this advice, but it did stick with me earlier on as well to say, right, don't think that because you can buy a better bit of equipment that you should, right? It's an investment at the end of the day. And, of course, if you've got money lying around, why not? But you get a lot of knowledge with kind of lower spec gear that you can then apply later on. So if you jump to an expensive camera straight away, and you may not have learned the basics, it's important, I think, to go through the struggles of using cheap gear.
When I picked this camera up for you, I came away saying I've never used one, and you gave me some basic running tips which got me going. But then nothing beats making mistakes. Unfortunately, it's that old adage. Shooting something's absolutely awful, but you don't make that mistake again. And this camera is earning its keep day after day after day, and it's also brought a passion for photography. I found I really do enjoy the idea and the concept of photography, and I look at things in different ways now. So I mean, this camera possibly I will exhaust at some point, but I think I'm a long way away from that at the moment. I'm still really happy. When I look at you're shooting on a Sony, aren't you, at the moment?
Yeah.
Which Sony are you on?
It's the A7S3, which is getting on a bit
decent
now.
glass on as well.
Yeah. I mean, the lens is probably more important than the camera sometimes, right?
Yeah.
But, so the one I'm on right now is a 24mm. It's a 1.4, I think. It went 1.4. So
that's what I want to get.
Very fast lens. Beautiful. I mean, I 90% of my shots, probably 80, but closer to 90, I'd say, is shot on this. And then I've got my big camera set at another angle for kind of a different shot for A-roll, which is a Tamron glass, which actually I was using that initially for us before I got the 24mm. I was using that Tamron.
They get really good reviews.
Oh yeah, they're
Everybody
amazing.
says they're great lenses.
God, awesome value for money.
I was going to say the value, because that's going to be the next thing I buy for this. Will be I'd like to get a 24 1.4. That would just give me that little bit of extra depth and so on. Yeah, but I know they're not cheap, but Tamron I think is the way I'll go.
Yeah, I mean they're awesome. There's it's only when you start to kind of pixel peep and in photography you might see some aberration and stuff, but you have to look in a way that you have to be really seriously blowing up pictures to like outdoor size. You won't notice for video for a lot of things. So the Tamron 28 to 75, which is the one I've got, is a beautiful lens for Sony.
And I'll tell you something else that struck me, I think, when I was working a late night, one night last week. And I do think you and I are very similar in the fact we make a lot of work for ourselves. We put a lot of edits into our videos and put a lot of extra time in. And I've been looking around at other creators, and I've been amazed at the laziness that seems to be creeping back in. Now, people just seem to be chunking out videos it just doesn't, I don't know if that's me because I'm not saying I understand the business, but I understand a bit of what goes into it. And just surely if you're going to put a video out, and I sit and look at yours sometimes and it inspires me. And Pete, we had on a few weeks back, I look at people and I think, wow, yeah, I need to up my game. And, and it's just inspiration when you look at other creators that are really pushing it and trying things on their videos just to make them come alive.
And I think that there's a reason, right? I try not to judge too much because I find myself questioning whether, for the video I did this week, was like, I knew even before I even started the script, I knew that video would tank. I even told the sponsors, like, you shouldn't be doing a dedicated video, but you're paying well. And I said this year I would avoid doing a dedicated video. That was the first one this year. So it was, it took me 6 months, but I did one, and that was the one. But I knew, I told the sponsor, like, I take less money from you. I even said, I'll take less money from you for a
sponsor
kind
video,
of a 90-second pre-roll or even like a mid-roll, right? And they're like, no, we want a dedicated video. I was like, okay, fine. So, but they paid for it. I said, if you paid as much, then fine. But I knew that the video wouldn't perform.
Were they at the back end of that? I don't know what contract you drew up with them. Does that mean they've got rights to use that video now for themselves?
No, they asked as well. And I said, if you want to use my video without linking to my YouTube and everything, basically have the footage and do whatever you want with it, that's extra. Yeah, that's going to be extra. And I will always recommend people to charge extra for that, because it's, it's your image and it's not on YouTube. Therefore, you're not actually going to be benefiting from it, right? They'll be selling stuff, and you're not going to get any cut from.
Which is exactly why I asked the question. Even though they knew your video wasn't going to perform well, I was just wondering why they were so adamant they wanted a fully.
They just wanted a dedicated video, and not even to use on the website. They literally just were adamant they want a dedicated video. So okay, I'll do I'll do a good job, and I did. And as I was editing, I was like you were saying earlier, right? It's like I thought I could just do a very, very quick and dirty here, because it doesn't need. No one's going to watch it. It's not a searchable product. It's just crazy, right? I think it got 500 views in 2 days, which is like, oh my God.
No, I mean, I'm sure you have that feeling as well. Sometimes I'm working late and putting in all those extra hours, and I've gone a long way recently because one of Premiere's strength is the text-based editing, and it is one of its absolute strengths. But where it falls down for me, I've been doing this asymmetric text of different sizes, shooting different angles, and of course there it doesn't help at all. That's still me free typing text in as I talk and finding cuts. But you do sometimes get to the point of sitting there thinking, is anybody really going to notice? But I've noticed in my metrics now that the retention is getting better because there's something happening all the way through. There's a visual element happening at some point.
Anything you can do to, we all, as creators, we all listen to Jimmy, right? Mr. Beast. And he works for a reason, right? There is people, sometimes viewers ask me, what's going on with all this text, right? Or this music and whatever. So it's an idea to kind of change the monotony of a shot, or to, I don't think my videos are on the verge of being too frantic sometimes. And I appreciate that sometimes you just want to like listen to someone and see what their opinions are. So I think I overdo it at times, but I wouldn't cut it out completely. I think it's really important to change it up a little bit. And
I could just do the straightforward text coming up, and that wouldn't take any time at all. But again, it's been there, done it. Everybody's doing it. It's not unique. It's not interesting. In fact, it's when I was looking at Instagram, and I think it was actually Radio 2, funny enough, they had some really nice text in this kind of squares thing, all different font sizes and colors. And I was thinking, that looks really good. And I know you do the same. You look at other content and you think, I could translate that into what I'm doing.
Yeah. But I think, if I'm really honest, right, I think the videos that do the best for me are the videos where I really relaxed. I wasn't really bothered about being perfect in what I was reading. Most of the videos I did well, and I kind of started to see a trend. And it's a shame because I'm not natural in front of the camera. I need a script. But I noticed that whenever I veer off towards a free roll and just go off the cuff a little bit, and those videos do better. So for me, it's a way of, I probably don't need all the fancy editing. I mean, it's great to change up a little bit. I think I would never remove that. But I think people care more about you just being yourself, to be honest.
Yeah, I think that's the next thing I've probably got to change. I've become too much of a slave to the auto cue. And it's been good. It's a much smoother, quicker delivery. But I think, again, if we're being critical, I'm possibly a little bit too robotic. I had that same criticism of myself on radio as well. I always wanted things to be perfect. Yeah. And then it crosses the line that it's too anodyne. It's too cold. There's not enough personality. And it's that fine line.
Definitely, yeah. When you start sounding like an article, you need to really be careful, right? And I noticed that when I first started using teleprompters, it was beautifully written, articles that could go, and on Medium and stuff and be read. But when you speak and you use certain language that people go, hang on, no one says that, right? I haven't seen some of your recent videos, but I'll have a look. But I think leave some. That's what I do now. I leave some gaps, right? I do the text, I read it out loud, and change it up again before I press record for real. I go through one more time, and I add some gaps where I think, okay, I might insert a joke here or whatever, and I still free roll. And there's a guy called Hilly or somebody. He's the editor for what's the name of that chap? One of the biggest channels on YouTube as well. Logan Paul or something.
Oh yeah.
I don't watch him, but he's the editor for him, and I think he edited for Mr. Beast as well. Hillier is his name, and yeah, he said something recently that was kind of interesting. He said they would shoot for hours on end, right, for like a vlog, and they said they remove about 80% of the footage, 70 to 80% goes in the bin. So we're probably, in a way, not really making the most of what we have to say, because we're, sometimes we script it and it's like that is the content. Sometimes maybe just record more than what we need, and then in the edit make it come to life.
Talking to you, actually, that's an idea you just given me. Maybe the way forward is to almost put one in the bank. So read the script, and then the next take of it, free roll it. Yeah, talk off the cuff while it's still fresh in my head, but just me not reading.
Yeah, and I love what Casey does as well, and I can't do it, right? No one can emulate. I mean, I can only look and go, right, can I do something that is going to be as interesting? But he does some really cool stuff for just picking the camera up, and he doesn't care whether the camera is tilted, if it's out of focus. The audio could be all over the place, but he makes it interesting by just picking up the camera and taking it somewhere else. And it's just like, why can't I do that?
I told it wasn't on his channel. It was somebody that was interviewing him, and I told her I saw it on our last podcast. And again, it has that way because he's such a unique talent that it looks so sloppy and so easy.
It's rough and ready, right?
But it's not.
Yeah.
It's a very practiced, polished art that he's got down. But his mind is wired on a different plane to most of us. So he can do things.
It's a story.
And it's always...
It's all about the story.
Yeah, and I mean, hell, you were at Lords yesterday. It's the same with sportsmen, they make it look easy.
Yeah.
They're just on a different level, these people, at what they do. And Casey is an exact example of that. I mean, McKinnon I still watch a fair bit of, but I'm actually really enjoying Patrick Tomaso at the moment.
Oh, yeah.
Really into his stuff. Very passionate about movies. I've even caused, me and him have had a little bit of banter going back and forth now, actually, because we've got to think about classic cars as well. And but it's got me to get a DVD player again for the first time in ages and watch more Coen Brothers films and things like that.
Right.
And again, this is this community thing that we get. Twitter still rules, isn't it? You still find people on Twitter and you have great conversations.
Oh gosh,
up there.
Definitely. Yeah. Every day I'm on there. You get to... Yeah,
you
talk to other creators and
I mean, absolutely, that has come off big time recently, and you made me laugh when I saw your donor card that went up the day before WWDC.
Oh yeah,
it did make me smile. I thought, we're all going to be there.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're going to take much money at WWDC because the headset almost certainly won't be. So,
but according to Gurman, there's so much coming out, like new Macs, M2 Pro, M2 Max. It's like, okay.
Well, okay, So
these are expensive beasts, right? And if we're going to review them, that's a few thousand. Easy.
Well, because you haven't got a Mac Studio, have you?
No, I never got it. I never got the display either. I was planning on getting the studio because I had this grand plan that there would be a team of people working here in this studio. I thought maybe that's going to make sense then, but no, the M1 Max MacBook Pro has been, knock on wood, an absolute dream to use. Has not failed once with me. In terms of it delivers day in, day out. And long may it last, because it was nearly $5,000, wasn't it? At least 4,000.
4.5 mine came into.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're looking at the Macs, that's like, from what Gurman was saying, it looks like an M2 Ultra is going to be coming out, and then they're saying, and apparently it's going into a desktop. Well, it's not going into the iMac. They just released new versions of the MacBook Pros earlier this year.
Yeah.
So it must mean they're putting it in the studio.
Some sort of new studio, yeah.
And then if it's going to studio, they can't release a Mac Pro, can they? Because that has to be running on M2.
They must be thinking, what's the point of a Mac Pro now, right?
Yeah, they've got to.
Who is that for? when you've got so much power in the studio and even the MacBooks.
I mean, because you said it on our last podcast, actually, about the MacBook Air, the 15 inches coming out. You said you wouldn't be interested if it was M2, and it almost certainly looks like it's going to be.
It's going to be M2, maybe M2 Pro as well. I don't know. But if the M3 is, because it depends, right? It depends what technology they use. Because if they call M2 Pro, but they're using 3nm chip, maybe
that's a much faster chip.
That's going to be way faster, right? But if it's the same, is it 5nm at the moment?
Yeah.
Which in cheap technology, they're quite behind, right? They need to be moving on to 3nm, because otherwise, Windows machines will start getting that, and Intel may come back.
Have Intel got anything that's kind of chasing on?
I'm not sure. I think they're still in the same sort of integrated technology, aren't they? But I don't know.
What might actually be up to buy after? Oh yeah, maybe it's the high-end Macs and maybe the MacBook Air be the only things that are physically up for sale. Because the rest it's going to be software updates that will come in the fall.
Yeah, I mean, there could be a surprise iPad, right?
Yeah.
That was the other thing I was mentioning right at the end of my video that hopefully I'll upload is, maybe there's something that we're not picking up here. Maybe they release Final Cut and Logic, and they know it's not going to be good enough for the current iPads for using footage like mine. Maybe they're thinking there's a new media engine on M3 iPad or some sort of other M2 iPad Pro. I don't know. But the thing for me is, there's a rumor of 14-inch iPad coming. And I'd say that would be great for video editing if it allows it to use proper footage.
So presumably at the moment, which tablet do you use more at the moment then? Your Samsung tablet or the iPad?
For 9 to 5 stuff, right? So and mini, Office, sometimes I multitask with Dex, which is a Samsung bit of tech. Yeah, that's the Tab S8 Ultra. That lives on my desk. In the evenings, I'd go to the M1 iPad Air, which is weird, right? Because I've got the souped up Retina, whatever, Super Retina Pro, whatever it is, M1 iPad Pro, it has got an amazing display. Don't use it. I just it's a shame because when it came out, even things that they promised, like I remember vividly in 2021, April 2021, they said, it's going to have haptics for the PS5 controller. That never really happened. I think only 1 or 2 games support it now. So I don't know. It's just typical overpromise and under-delivered on that one.
So you mentioned a video that you're hoping to get up this weekend. And what's the actual premise of it? Looking at the iPad as a creator's tool with Final Cut, is that the basic? Or is it looking at the iPad as an overall content creator's tool?
No, it was more about Final Cut itself. So I think that it, of course, involves the iPad, but I think the video is more towards my view of Final Cut Pro as it stands. Because like I said, it's going to be for somebody. And I discuss who I think that is for, but it's definitely not for creators like who are used to Final Cut on the Mac. And I even said that on a tweet. So that's my kind of bottom line. I think it's for people who never used Final Cut before.
And would I be right in assuming then that the video that we're going to see wasn't edited on the iPad?
Yeah, that was the original idea.
I wondered.
My first line, my opening line, which would be right. I was going to say this entire video was edited on the iPad, but I couldn't even get that far. No, it wasn't. I tried.
And just before we sort of tot off into the Friday night distance, just pulling back something on YouTube, and there could be a lot of creators that are just crossing that boundary into monetization, and having just gone that route myself, it's not actually as straightforward.
Drinks on you then.
Yeah, absolutely. If you could see I think I will name the price here because it's so pitifully low that it's jokeable. I think the 25th of this month, I think I'm getting my first payout on YouTube of £73.
Oh, nearly 3 digits. Nearly three digits. Yeah, that's the target. That's the target.
Yeah, I mean, people can say, that's 70 quid you didn't have. True. But then equally, if you put that into how many hours. But anyway, it's what I've chosen to do. But it's the route. Also, I put AdSense on my website now as well. So ads on my website. But trying to get all that to come together and finding the points. Because I got in touch with YouTube yesterday and said, look, I've got, I don't know, roughly speaking, $20 over the last 3 months. When do you have to accrue it in a certain month? And the answers weren't very clear. So is it you have to get to, because they're a boundary in the UK is £60, isn't it? Is that in a month or is that accumulative?
It's in a month, yeah. So
Right.
it will count from the first of the month to the last of the month, and then they'll pay you on the following month. So
what you earned in the month just finished,
yeah,
May,
so
you'll
1st
get
of
paid
May
for
to the 31st of May, say you made 59 quid, you won't get paid. And then, it will add up to what you made in June. And then in July, the 25th or whatever, you get the payout. Yeah.
And they're good as gold are they? Once it's up and running, it's all straightforward.
I mean, some of us, in a WhatsApp group, we make a joke all the time that, it always comes through. Whether it's on 24th, 25th, 26th, it varies. Some countries get it earlier and then you panic because, oh my God, I haven't got paid yet. But you get paid every month. Sometimes a day or two off the usual. Yeah.
Obviously, what we're talking about here is the AdSense rev, purely, nothing to do with sponsors or anything like that. And have you found there's been a dip? Because presumably there are, well, I know from
there was some
listening
from me, but I attributed that to me just being shit. And it's true. I look at how many videos I uploaded in April.
Yeah.
In comparison to March. In March, I killed it. It was like nearly 20 videos, and it showed in my AdSense. It doesn't matter if the videos did well or not.
20 videos in a month?
Including shorts, right?
Shorts, yeah.
But but the shorts didn't do that well. I mean, but there was a few long videos that did really well, and I got almost 1 million views in a month. So I got a decent check. In April, I didn't. I uploaded maybe 4 or 5 videos, and it showed. Right, it was like almost half of the revenue.
But there is also this thing of, I've heard the term you know the word I'm trying to say, ad apocalypse. That's the one.
Yeah.
So do you find there are certain times when either the general economy of the world is slower, that advertisers are spending less with Google, and that trickles down to your paycheck? Yeah,
and that goes by niche as well. Some niches, I mean, tech has been very, very, I mean, you can look at your CPM, right, which is the cost per mille, the cost per 1,000. That dips different times of the year. So yeah, usually January, February. This January actually has been the best in 3 years for me, because there was a lot of Apple releases and, things went crazy. But typically that's when you see, tumbleweed. There's no one advertising, and you see the quality of advertising is lower. I have some thoughts on that, because I was watching how my son watches YouTube sometimes, and I was kind of just observing how he deals with content. He might be the most interesting video that I've seen him watch. When an ad pops up, he will skip the ad and maybe change. It almost triggers people's brain to go, you need to do something here. And that something might be come off a video and search for something else. And I noticed that, 50-50, but a lot of times when an ad comes up, he will come off the video completely. But I've seen the other side of, some creators absolutely killing it with money by adding a lot of even more ads, because YouTube will add 2 or 3 if you don't do anything, right? But they'll go in and physically add more ads in a 10-minute video. They were like, let's put 10 ads in there. I don't have the balls to do that.
Because you can do that manually, can't you?
Yeah, you can add breaks, and then advertisers will. So I think if you're making a video that is going to get, say, over 100,000 views, because people are really interested in that, and they'll bear with the ads, right? They will skip it, but they will stick with it. That might be worth putting more ads than what YouTube normally do. But I don't know. I let YouTube, most of the time I go back in there just to make sure that YouTube didn't add the ads in a weird place. And then I just adjust that. But because I add music breaks, they're now using those breaks to put the ads, which makes a lot of sense. So
the algorithm picks up on that, yeah.
Yeah, and that's usually when I change subjects anyway. So it's kind of a natural place to say, okay, have a breather, maybe watch an ad, and then go back and the music's still playing, then it's the next point.
I need to get that as a habit. I need to get an alias account set up, because I've got premium, so I never see ads anyway, which doesn't help. I need to actually look at some of my videos.
First thing I do
and see where the ads have been placed.
Yeah, and also, I mean, you can only tell by, actually, you can use a VPN. I haven't tried this yet, but you can use a VPN and then see what other countries as well are seeing, right? Because the quality of the ad will tell me if the video is doing well or not. You know, if someone like
the
Disney,
kind of advertiser you're getting.
yeah, it's like sometimes you get Disney advertising, but sometimes you get like a local farm shop, and it's like, okay, that's that video is tanking.
Yeah. I thought, that's a couple of things I need to. It's always something that we mentioned here that I said go away thinking about, and you know that little gem there about, as you say, looking. I've never ever used a VPN actually.
Yeah, it's more of as a curiosity thing. I don't know if you can. I don't know if you can do much with that information, right? But it tells me it's almost like a comforting fact. Oh yeah, there's a good advert in there, then I can chill.
Of VPNs, have you used it to watch Netflix from different regions and things like that?
Yeah. I do work with one of them. I won't mention it here because they're not paying me right now. But I do use one, and they're amazing. They're really, as they promise, and it's quite cheap as well. So, but there's so many out there that do exactly that. So I watch it. I use it for watching Brazilian sports as well.
Of course,
which is great.
Yeah.
So, you know, if I don't, then it'll say your region is not authorized or whatever. It's great for Formula One as well. If you want to watch Formula One live when you're traveling, but you know you want to watch like Sky Sports or whatever. It's a good way of
And the other threshold that I've now passed is I'm getting quite a lot, 2 or 3 a week. Advertisers coming through to me. But all of them at the moment, and I know it's doing the rounds because I've seen other creators mentioning it too, are saying, we'll give you the product.
Oh, yeah. That old chestnut.
We'll give you the product, and we'll give you affiliate links.
But you think, well, as the first time, next time
and you think if the product's shit anyway, I'm not going to get any affiliate clicks off of it because... And then they say, and then it's just this little bit about paying, and suddenly that's when the conversation just turns to absolute dust, and you know, you don't hear from them again.
I think if it's something that you really want, like, for example... an electric bike, so that's coming.
Shameless.
Maybe. So I'm getting, mate. For over a year, they've been talking to me. You know, there's more than one as well. It's like, okay, you know, one of them even said, "I'm sending you. Here's, you know, give me your shipping address." That was September last year. Never turned out. It's okay, whatever. So they're back in the game, and they're apparently sending me a bike now. But one of them is agreeing to pay. So. But I think in general, there's no such a thing. I think when we talked to Mike, is it Michael Soledad?
Oh yeah,
he was saying this, right? There's no such thing as a free product, or free review. You know, they're giving a product, but it's not really payment.
No, it's. We've done their hard work for them. We've done the audience research. We found their demographic they want to reach, and then they're expecting all of that work.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's nice to the point I'm getting people approach me now, and I'm going to stand for. I know you and I have had a couple of messages because a couple of times I've got in touch with you and said, you know, where do you think I should pitch it? But I'm going to stand firm. You know, yes, I'll have a
standard, and that's what I did, right? Have a standard response, because sometimes you might be flustered by the fact that you got that email and be tempted to respond and say, yeah, I love it. I'd say have a professional standard template, you know, and I can share. Maybe you can share that in the notes as well. That I use, and I share that with a lot of creators on Twitter.
Really useful.
People say, can I DM you? And I share that with people on Twitter, because it's just like, for this type of video, like an integration, I'll charge this. For a dedicated video, if you do those, I charge this, and that way is like a black and white. And if they respond and say, okay, we don't have a budget for this or whatever, or maybe just ask straight away, right? Do you have a budget for this? And I did that this week. It was almost like I knew, you know, it was a TV company, a fairly reasonable brand, and I said, "This
not
is
the one behind you."
No, it's not the one behind me. I mean, I wish it was, because that was.
What size is that? That's huge, isn't
it? That's a 65, so not the biggest, but it's decent for this space, yeah. And they said, "Oh, we're launching a new telly, and we want you to work with us." So here we go. It's never going to work. So I just responded a one-liner. I was in the toilet actually at the time. So I was like, you know, that's what you do. I just respond to brand email. And I said one-liner, gave him a price that was completely out of what I normally charge anyway. I said, this is going to be see you later, never going to work. They came back straight away, said, here's the contract. It's like, oh, brilliant. So have something like, have your rate. Don't waste a lot of time. You know, just get that as your first response. Say, right, do you have a budget? Here's my rate. and go from there.
Yeah, that in every instance, I've gone in at a certain rate to everybody that asks. And I said, look, there might be a little bit of room for maneuver, but I'm not suddenly going to be doing it for nothing. And there was one product this week that I was kind of, it was a flip out 4K screen that you could put to one side of your MacBook Pro.
Oh, yeah.
And I looked at it, I thought, yeah, it's not a bad product. I wouldn't mind it. But again, I didn't want to lower my bar by accepting that product for free and doing and they wanted a full video. This wasn't
a dedicated video. So it's going to be tricky, right, with those. But I've done those. And like I said, if it's something that you're going to actually legitimately use and you want to have, it could be worth it, right? But if it's just something that you're not going to use it, your audience will see through it anyway, right? That you're not really interested in that product, and no one wins. Whether it's a paid 90-second integration, you can make the content relate to your audience, and the product will get, the sponsor will get more eyeballs. So I think in that situation, everyone wins. And I got a few of those that is like, why can't all of them just see the value of doing this? You get lots of people clicking through as well. You can see if you use something like Genius Links, you can see how many people are clicking through the ads, and I get a lot more clicks when it's an integration versus a dedicated video.
Dedicated, yeah.
Got 20 clicks on my dedicated video yesterday. So it's like, that's not,
no one bought it
for me. Yeah, exactly.
So I think really we've covered everything we need to on this one. Next time we have a podcast, that will be after we've seen it. We'll know what we're talking about.
Yes. Yeah, we'll either be really happy and amazed, or we'll be pissed off.
I mean, we'll both would have had videos out by then, I know, because we're just whores, and we would have definitely pimped it out for all we can.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to the next few weeks, I have to say, with all these products. Not just from a financial perspective, but the timing, right? I can see late hours in our future.
Yeah. It's happening, I know. Because I mean, this is the first cycle. Although I was involved in it last year, at this time, I was even wetter behind years.
Yeah.
It's all a little bit more professional now. And so... yeah, scheduling and looking at what's coming up and trying to, and that's why I was happy today, actually, getting that video out. Just at the right time.
Plan the shit out of everything, because otherwise you're just gonna get run over by content ideas and go, oh my gosh, what do I do?
Yeah. Cool, man. Okay, well,
nice one.
That's that one. We'll be back together again in a couple of weeks' time, and we'll put a link to that mic adapter that Alex was talking about in the show notes, and also that, if you don't mind putting that document in there, that contract.
Yeah, no, I've got a couple of templates I can share.
Great.
As a Google Docs link or whatever.
Perfect. Yep, we'll put that in the notes as well. And enjoy the podcast. Enjoy WWDC, my mate.
Yeah.
I dare say we'll be telegraphing one another like furious next week.
Yeah, I might even do like an extraordinaire edition. We don't know. Let's see what happens, right?
Who can tell where our creative juices lead us?
Yeah. All
right. It's Friday night. It's time for wine.
Have a good one.
Cheers, mate.
Bye.
See you. Bye-bye.